Welcome to Crappy to Happy podcast, a special series on our Sacred Stories podcast dedicated to sharing the incredible stories of grit, grace, and love in our new book, Crappy to Happy, Sacred Stories of Transformational Joy. I am your host, Rev Ariel Patricia, and together we will answer the question, do bad things happen to good people, or could the difficulties we face be gifts in disguise? Today we are speaking with Ken Walls, whose story in Crappy to Happy is titled Power Through Surrender. Ken has taken the tragedies and triumphs of his life and used them to better understand people and know how to help someone overcome, expand, and flourish in their life and in business. He is the host of his popular show, Breakthrough Walls, and author of the #1 best-selling book, Walls of Wisdom, Turning Pain into Profit. So it is my delight to welcome Ken Walls to Crappy to Happy.
Thanks for having me.
Ken, I've been looking forward to our conversation. I have to say, ever since your story, Power Through Surrender, came into Crappy to Happy, I'm like, I can't wait to talk to Ken about this because it's just a tremendous story.
Well, it's just my story. I mean, it's a crazy story, but it's unbelievable.
It's a beautiful story. It's a painful story. It has some humor and fun in it, and most of all, it has inspiration and hope. So Tell our listeners your story, Power Through Surrender, that you shared in Crappy to Happy.
Well, and if I said that I remember every word that I wrote, I would be lying. But the overall message in my story is, I was raised in a house with a lot of drugs, alcohol, and violence as a kid. And eventually I turned to not drugs, but alcohol. A little bit of weed doesn't count, does it?
I don't think so. I think we'll give you a pass on that.
Right. So, I ended up turning to alcohol and, used it to numb the pain and did that for many, many, many years. And, the details are insane, like just absolutely insane. I've lived all over the United States and, a couple of different marriages and multiple relationships and tons of employees and bad business moves and, just a lot of insanity. And in spite of that, I still took a company in my 20s from zero. I started it to a multi-million-dollar company eventually, and then I drank all of it away. And I was telling somebody yesterday actually that I was running, and I didn't even realize I was running, but I was, I would be in one city or and then problems would start arising. My relationships were bad. And, I remember living in Pittsburgh and thinking, man, it's all these crazy women in Pittsburgh. That's the problem. And so, I ended up in West Virginia and I'm like, oh Lord, they're even worse here. And then I ended up in Dallas, Texas. And I wasn't there long enough to blame any women or anyone, but and eventually after moving around the country and just having an insane existence on this planet, I was sitting in a bar in the suburbs of Columbus, Ohio, and owned a business, had a couple of Mercedes, had, a bit, I just, things were, at least from the outside, looked like they were going very well. On the inside, they were not going very well at all. And this guy comes up and sits down next to me and says, hey, I put in my 2-week notice. I'm ready to start working for you. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? What? Why would you do that? And He's like, because of the conversation we had the other night. You told me to put in my notice that I could be your head guy. And I'm like, we did not have that conversation. And he's like, yes, we did. And, so long story short, he was not happy. I was humiliated. And he basically said, everybody around here knows that you're nothing but a worthless drunk. Why don't you go get some help? And I don't know if it was a moment where God, the universe, whatever you want to refer to it as, just kind of like knocked the legs out from underneath of me, the bar stool I was sitting on, metaphorically, and said, enough's enough, dude. And so the very next day, I went to a 12-step recovery meeting, and I made sure that it was way out of town because my ego was so big that I thought, I can't go to a meeting locally because, what if somebody sees me walking into an AA meeting, And so I went 40-ish miles out of town to a meeting and sat right down next to a guy that I knew, this doctor. I was like, oh my gosh, unbelievable. So yeah, I mean, that's part of my story, and there's obviously a whole lot of details in between that are insane.
I think what struck me the most about your story is that the way that you tell it in the book is very similar to how you just told it. Just really straightforward, very honest. We all kind of have our come to Jesus moment, but it didn't it doesn't come across that way. It comes across as just that, this really powerful, honest story that I know will resonate with so many people. And what fascinated me the most when you sent us that story was because I didn't know that about you, first of all. And I look at you and I see this incredibly successful, likable, kind of media guru now. You have a lot going on, and for you to, I think it takes a lot of courage, talk about your ego, right? To share that part of you and to put it out in a book. So why, Ken? Why would you do that? What was the reasoning for that?
For being honest?
Yeah, for sharing exactly that story because you said even on the first day you went to AA, your ego had you go 40 miles out of town. So where are you? Where are you now? Who is Ken Walls now that you can share that most probably painful part of your life and share it so openly and honestly?
Well, I was talking to my buddy Glenn Morshower, which you talked to Glenn the other night with me. He's the actor, and I was talking to him the other night. He's my best friend in the world, and I said, I'm trying to put some things together that I'm teaching in my online academy, and I go, what would if you like were to say, well, Ken Walls is best at teaching blank, what would that be? And he didn't even take a breath. He said, authenticity, dude. And I said, really? Like, that's not what I was expecting. I'm a technology guy. I was expecting him to say, oh, you got to teach people how to use Zoom or this or that or whatever. And it was authenticity. And I go, that's a little shocking to me to hear you say that. Why do you say that? He goes, because that's what is so endearing about you, my brother. You are one of the most, if not the most authentic person I have ever known in my life. And I go, really? And he goes, you don't apologize for who you are. You speak your mind and yada, yada, yada. And I said, wow, that's so, what makes me authentic is I've lived, because I didn't get sober until I was 34. I'm 52 now. So I have 18 years of sobriety. And the first 34 years will take a year or two, maybe 3 out of the equation in my very early on years. But from about the age of 3 until I was 34, I had to pretend to be somebody that I wasn't. And that is a horrific, terribly bad way to live your life. And so I like, it's like this. People, I people like, I love people that act like they're perfect, because those are the people that I love to have conversations with and really dissect them to help them see they're not perfect. You're not perfect, and it's okay. Like, you're not supposed to be perfect. Quit trying to play perfect. You're not perfect. So, for me, it's like, I'm imperfect, and I speak my truth. I live in my truth, and if you don't like it, then we don't have to hang out. That's cool. Like, this is me. Like, if you don't like it, okay, I get it. There's plenty of people I don't like, but I think that if people would stop trying to be something that they're not for the rest of the world, like, there are those people, and we all know that there are people, and we've all been those people, where we're trying to please somebody else. We're trying to be something that we're not, just so we can make sure that other person or that group of people or that whatever sees us in the light that we want them to see us in. Well, that's crazy to me. That's insane. I've been there, and I don't want to ever be there again.
Mm. So just like Glenn's answer to you was something you didn't expect, your answer to me was something I didn't expect. So I love kind of uncovering more and more of kind of who Ken Walls is as our friendship and our relationship, working relationship continues. So, and I agree, and I think that's incredibly liberating for people, because I think that for you to be able to say to someone, hey, no one's perfect. It's okay. It's okay to be you with all your stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you don't want to maybe work on some of that stuff. You worked on getting sober, and that was a wonderful blessing in your life. So we're not saying don't work on your stuff, but you don't need to uh, be afraid or hide your stuff either. Would you agree?
Yeah, I do agree, and the irony in that is, I don't know if irony is the right word, but you know getting, so like, alcohol for an alcoholic is just a symptom of the real problem. That's not the real problem. The real problem is a spiritual malady. And so, for me, it was like, and I thought it was alcohol for a long time. I just thought, well,
Or
all I gotta do is quit drinking.
all the crazy women in all the cities you kept moving through, like you said, you were projecting and blaming other people,
Yeah.
which I love that you brought that out in your story, because that's really real, and that's,
Yeah, and it is. I mean, and again, there were some legitimately crazy women in my life. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't the only part of the equation, but at the end of the day, once I took responsibility for every outcome in my life, and I stopped blaming other people, and I said, look, okay, so now I know that the alcohol's gone, and for the first year and a half of sobriety, I I switched addictions. I went from being addicted to alcohol to being addicted to women. And until somebody called me out on it and said, "Hey, dude, you are really messed up. You need to do something about this." And that's when I started making some. That's I read book after book after book on becoming a better human, or becoming a better spiritual being, so I could in turn be a better human being.
I love that you've brought spirituality into this, because there is a part in your story that night when you went back to your hotel room after the meeting with the person at the bar,
Mm-hmm.
when that's, your story is called Power Through Surrender, right? That's the moment that you began your surrender.
Yes, but I mean, again, you know how it goes. Anybody with any experience in life knows that we can look back in hindsight and go, yeah, that was a definitely big pivotal moment for me. Um, but I didn't realize at the time, obviously, that I was surrendering to a power greater than me. I didn't realize that. I still have to surrender every single day. I worked out this morning. I was like, I'm surrendering to my laziness because I really truly don't want to have to work out. It stinks working out, but so we're always in that. And I think that that's something else is when I stop trying to be in control of everything and I just say, you know what, I'm going to just surrender this whole thing that I'm upset about. I'm going to go meditate. I'm going to just release all of this negative energy and let God handle the details. And when I do that, man, things just work out for me.
You meditate every day, right?
Every day, I have for 17 years. Yep. Over 17 years.
I find that just so incredibly inspiring because I'm one of those people that self-care comes in fits and spurts for me. So to speak to you and 17 years you were meditating every day and you make that a priority, I think speaks volumes for the commitment, that you've made to you at this point.
Well, and that's the power of, see, everybody talks about the ego being such a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It can be a bad thing, but for me, my ego is so big. I don't want to be wrong, and I don't want to be a liar, and I don't want to mislead people. So I continue to meditate every day. Why? Because tomorrow, if I'm asked, so you meditate every day, I can look in the camera or at whoever in the eyes and say, yes, I meditate every single morning. I'll be late for a meeting before I miss meditation. Well, what is that? Why do you do that? The truth is probably so I can say I meditate every day. but the payoff is huge. So my ego's pushed it, and not always. I mean, obviously not always, but I'm just now. I mean, 17 years of doing it. It I can't imagine not doing it. Like you know what I mean? It's like I drink coffee also in the morning, so I can't imagine not drinking coffee. Like that would just suck. Be a bad day actually. And it's the same with meditation for me.
So again, the authenticity, right? Glenn Morshower is absolutely correct. It's your authenticity, for you to, you're not just gonna fill us with a bunch of stuff, having us think that you're, meditating for all the reasons that would sound really good. You're going to be authentic, and those reasons are in there, and we know that, but there's that beautiful authentic part of you that comes through, and it's in your story. And that's why when we received your story, I was like, this is gold. Like this has to go in, because it's that powerful in its authenticity, in the way that you tell the story. And I just love that you say the word dude. That's in the story too, and it makes me laugh.
Glenn, I don't know, Glenn Morshower has had a 45-year acting career, been in 250 movies and TV shows, and he says to me the other day, he said, dude, and I said, dude, and he goes, you realize that in all of my life, 61 years on this planet, it wasn't until I met you that I actually started using the word dude. he goes, in fact, I'm pretty sure that I used to look down on people that said dude.
It's so funny to me because it's in your story, and as I'm reading it, I can hear you. I can hear your voice. I can hear you telling the story, and it's just so perfect. So Ken, when our readers and our listeners read your story, Power Through Surrender in Crappy to Happy, what do you want them to receive? What is your hope for the people reading it?
My hope for not just that story, but in everything that I do in life, my hope is that I can positively impact someone's life in a way that they get out of living the lies that they're living and start living their own truth. Stop. Do you know how many? I mean, it blows me away how many people go to their graves with their music still in them that are paralyzed by fears that aren't even real. They're paralyzed throughout their entire lives of living in relationships or marriages or in jobs or careers that they just absolutely despise, but they spend their entire lives lying to themselves about how awesome it is when they know deep down in they hate it. My hope is I can impact people, help them wake up to the true power that God put them here on this planet for. Wake up to who they really are.
Mm. So we talk about the gift and the pain, getting sober, you were pretty awake at that point, pretty aware of probably the pain and moving through it. Do you look back and see the years that you've gone through and the process of coming into sobriety and practicing sobriety? Do you see that as a gift in disguise, or how do you view it now?
What bit the all the years of drinking?
The life to that point, and then the pain, the
The,
I know I have not um gone through sobriety. I alcohol has never been an addiction of mine. I mean, smoking was, but that's a little bit different. And I would imagine that becoming sober and staying sober is, has a level of depth, a level of probably pain and uncomfortableness in it to a degree. Do you look back on the whole process of this, and do you see a gift in it?
oh my gosh, it's the greatest gift I was given. It's being including the physical abuse I experienced as a child and all the other forms of abuse I experienced as a child. For years I drank at that. I drank. I was trying to anesthetize the pain and escape the reality of what happened and what happened to me and also what I did. And I drank and drank and drank and drank and drank, and nothing could completely get rid of it. And now that I've been sober for quite some time and have a tremendous amount of recovery as well, because there is a difference between just being sober and being recovered. I look at it now and I think, man, I wouldn't be who I am today had I not gone through all of that pain. I wouldn't have the empathy. I wouldn't have the wisdom. I wouldn't have the life that I have today had I not gone through that pain. And that's something, like Tony Robbins talks about as humans, we're trying everything we're doing to escape pain and gain pleasure. And I get that. But when we learn how to say, okay, so I went through this crap. And I mean, I've been through every form of abuse you can name, every form of it as a child. And I used to be like, oh, that just angers me that happened. Or, I wouldn't say it out loud. I would just drink at it. And once you learn to, I guess for me, I just kind of remove myself and try to have a God's eye view of it and look at everything that happened as I coach people every day, and I deal with problems on various scales that folks are going through. And I can relate to a lot of them because I've been through most of them. So, it's like, how do you help somebody if you haven't experienced it?
Right. Right. So you, Ken Walls, are the gift that keeps on giving. And I think that's how I'm going to refer to you from now on. We should put that on your website. Speaking of that, tell our audience your website, because you have so much going on, and talk just real quick. Tell them where they can catch your shows, because you're on all kinds of channels, and It's just, if you, audience, if you love listening to, a little snippet of Ken today, and I'm pretty sure you do, I really encourage you to check out Ken because he has daily shows. So Ken, how do our listeners find you?
Well, I'm always looking for new subscribers on YouTube. So that's the one channel I'm terrible with. But if you go to kenwalls.com, all of my social media links are there. And I have a daily show called Breakthrough Walls. I've interviewed somewhere in the vicinity of about 300 celebrities and entrepreneurs. You've been on my show. I'm also an Amazon Live influencer. I'm an Amazon influencer, and they just invited me to do their live streaming program on Amazon. And you can get to my Amazon live streams and most people don't even know that there's such a thing as Amazon Live. But you can get to those by going to kenwallslive.com. That takes you directly to my Amazon channel. I'm on YouTube. It's youtube.com/Ken Walls. I'm on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and I'm even on TikTok, and so I'm everywhere. I try to be omnipresent.
You're the gift that keeps on giving. I think we figured it out.
Oh, I've been called a lot of things. That's not one of them. So
Uh,
thank you.
well, share that with Glenn. See what Glenn's reaction to that is. But that's how I'm going to refer to you from now on. So, Ken,
Oh,
it's just been so fun. It's always fun, talking with you.
you're amazing. I appreciate you asking me to be on today.
So, listeners, Ken's story, Power Through Surrender, can be found in our new book, Crappy to Happy, Sacred Stories of Transformational Joy, which is available through Amazon, booksellers worldwide, or direct from Sacred Stories Publishing. And Ken can be found, look him up at kenwalls.com and check out his shows because they're just phenomenal. Ken, thank you again.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
And to our listeners, thank you for listening. I am your host, Rev Ariel Patricia. And until next time, as always, I encourage you to write your sacred story well.